Panama, changing an engine. By that time, I was getting flight pay. In other words, I had to put in a couple of hours a month in order to get my flight pay. So, was very usual for a guy. Where you going? I got to get some time in. So you jump on a plane. They were flying to his depot to change the engine on his plane. So I said, I need some hours. Can I come over? Sure. So I went into the nose and where I slept all the time. While we got there and they changed the engine. I had nothing to do with it because there was none of the crew. And I'm just getting my time. Then when it's time to come to test the plane, I'm laying in the nose of the plane. And if you remember the B-18, the nose is right down in the front on the ground. Right? We take off and we're flying around, then they're coming in for landing. And all of a sudden the alarm bell starts to ring. So I don't even know what the hell the alarm bell is. But I hear it ringing, won't stop. So they decide to come in. So they come in and I'm looking at the runway under my nose. And all of a sudden I'm a foot above the runway. And all of a sudden we're sliding in on our belly. The alarm was that the wheels weren't down. And we're sitting there like this with both propellers bent up on this on this new engine. And I smell gas. And I jump like a bunny out there and run up to the top and jump out to the top and onto the wing. We're sitting in a puddle of gasoline. And I walked, as I went past the pilot, he's sitting there like this. He's tapping his fingers. Well, you know what this means to him. On his record, he'll never be a second lieutenant for the rest of his life. Well, we're sitting there beautifully. What a landing. Screech, and the bomb bay. What happened was we had a tank in the bomb bay. It's a rubber tank, and we held the extra gas. And there's a sump on the bottom. So when the gas is all out, there's still a gallon or two in there. So when he hit, he rubbed the bottom of the sump off, and all the gas went out. We could have gone up,
Yeah, like a ball of fire.
So I jumped out there and slashed through. And got the hell away from it. Well, there was a hearing, naturally, and a couple of guys got hurt by it, but they never mentioned my name in there, so because I had nothing to do with it. But that was my first crash.
Portent of things to come, I guess.
Panama. I was on one side of the Panama, and I went to the other side of Panama on a pass. And when I wanted to come back, I went to the airport. I said, flight engineer, I want to go back. Any flights going? They said, oh, we got DC-4 or something going back. You can be the flight engineer on that. Okay. So we get down, and I always stood like this between the pilot and co-pilot. And on takeoff, there's only one thing I watch, and that's the cylinder pressure. And we're running down the runway, and this thing goes. I yelled, abort, and he's pressing on the brakes. He's trying to stop, and I'm pulled down on the handle. There's a brake handle, and I'm pulling down, and we swerve off of the runway. So he says, you took my brakes away from me. I said, yeah, you weren't stopping. You weren't stopping. And he said, what happened? I said, didn't you see your cylinder had blew? So we got out of the plane. There's a hole in the cowling where a spark plug came through. It blew a spark plug. So
through the cowling.
Yeah. So that was my second.
And you're not even in the war yet.
Yeah.